It's time for Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. And now your host, J. Bryan Nugen, estate planning and elder law attorney.
Good morning, and welcome to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. I'm attorney J. Bryan Nugen, founder of Nugen Law, and your host for our program. The purpose of our show is to have weekly, in-depth conversations about matters relevant to folks as they walk down the path of successful aging. Our listeners will learn what it is to age with dignity and how best to protect their money. I've been practicing law for 3 decades. I'm licensed to practice in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida, and actively represent clients in all 4 states. My practice, the attorneys and our interdisciplinary team of professionals who practice with me concentrate on working with clients in estate planning and elder law and areas related to them, such as protecting money from nursing home stays, securing benefits from programs including Medicaid and the VA, geriatric care coordination, estate and trust administration, guardianships, and planning for those with special needs. Nugen Law sees clients in many stages of life, but commonly we have folks reaching out when they or a loved one are showing signs of needing help. Those signs may include a chronic ailment or progressive decline before, during, or after a hospitalization, an instance of incapacity, caregiver burnout, stress on family members due to some or all of those instances I just mentioned. As a reminder, if you hear something in today's broadcast which resonates with you, strikes a chord with you, something you might need help with, please call Nugen Law at 260-925-3738, speak with one of our intake specialists, and schedule a meeting for either our Fort Wayne or our Auburn locations. You are also encouraged to see us online at www.nugenlaw.com. That's Nugenlaw.com. Next, Nugen Law will be presenting a free seminar on August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. in Fort Wayne with a deeper dive into how you can be sure to preserve your dignity and protect your money, with topics like asset preservation, care management as you age, estate planning, and elder law. Please call 260-925-3738 to reserve your spot. So today in the studio we have a great guest, Jesslyn Smith, an attorney with Nugen Law. Jesslyn is licensed to practice law in Indiana, has been doing so in excess of a decade, and is currently serving as president of Indiana's chapter of the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. Welcome, Jesslyn Smith. Great having you on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jesslyn, as president of Indiana's chapter of NALA, National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys, there is no one better for me to ask this question of than you. Our listeners have heard people talking about estate planning and elder law attorneys. It can be confusing. What is an estate planning attorney and what is an elder law attorney? Are they different? How do they relate? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, they are different in certain situations. I would say generally any attorney really can do estate planning and prepare estate planning documents. If you need a will, a power of attorney, or a healthcare representative, an attorney can do that. However, an elder law attorney differs in that the elder law attorney is going to understand and help navigate other issues that may arise within needing those documents. And so most elder law attorneys prepare those documents, but your situation may warrant needing an elder law attorney versus just an estate planning attorney.
I think one of the things that I see in my practice when I'm reviewing documents that maybe somebody else had prepared or choices that had been made for clients by someone that's just doing just doing estate planning and not elder laws, they're not issue spotting. They're not recognizing, if I put this into effect, there is a negative consequence for my client as they age. There is a negative consequence for family members of my client as they age. Jesslyn, you and I were at lunch just a few weeks ago with another attorney, and we were talking about some horror stories that in relationship to an attorney that's practicing in estate planning and not elder law. And they were giving advice to their client that ended up becoming a client of Nugen Law, but they had received very poor advice about how to spend their money, and there was nothing to do to protect their funds, and it was heartbreaking for me to hear that. So these folks had paid good money to get advice and for guidance in order to protect their assets, get public benefits, and the advice they were given was radically different than what an elder law attorney would provide. And I think that typifies the difference between seeking advice from an estate planning attorney and an elder law attorney. An elder law attorney does everything an estate planning attorney does and more, and really understands the consequence of making a simple gift, right? People say, oh, it was a simple gift. It wasn't a simple gift. We're not just looking at the tax code. We're looking at the Medicaid code. We're looking at the VA code. So those things affect our clients significantly.
Yeah, another example that I usually see, an individual will have documents prepared by another attorney, but that attorney may not have taken a dive into their family situation or their background and miss the fact that maybe there's a disabled child that will be inheriting or something along those lines. And so then those documents don't provide for protecting those assets for that disabled child or that disabled heir. And so it's unfortunate because if that person was to die and those special things are not in place for the disabled child, they could lose public benefits that they're receiving. And so, there might be certain issues like that a regular estate planning attorney is not going to issue spot.
I don't think that they're doing anything malicious.
No.
It's not what you know, it's what you don't know.
Yep.
And I know for you and for myself and others at the office, we're constantly going to CLEs, continuing legal education courses. We are constantly reading. We're constantly involved. My gosh, Jesslyn, you've been down to the state, to Indianapolis, advocating for changes that are being proposed to Medicaid. You've advocated to our legislators. So elder law attorneys are actively involved in understanding issues that may affect their clients more so than just, I need a simple will. Right? Not that we can't prepare a simple will, but oftentimes you want that depth of knowledge. Before your first meeting, a new estate planning or elder law client, Jesslyn, are there things you encourage for them to think about? So before that client comes into you for your initial meeting, what things would you encourage them to think about, maybe make a note of, jot down, so that they're well prepared to speak to you?
Yeah, we like to let them know ahead of time that they should consider who is it they're going to possibly want to manage or handle things if they're unable to, and who would handle or manage things for them after they pass, to kind of have an idea and think through who it is they would want to select for that. And sometimes we'll even say, that they should bring with them the individuals that they're considering so that they can hear what would be their role and everything as well if put into those positions. Mm-hmm.
What information are there documents, or is there are there items that you want them to bring to their first meeting with you or their second meeting with you?
Yeah. So usually we want for them to bring to that initial meeting as much information as they can that they may have access to, but usually it's their financial information, who is their doctor, who is their financial advisor, who's their tax preparer, because really we also want to make sure we're giving this information to those other professionals so that they know who those important people are that you're selecting, and we want to make sure they actually get put in your records with those individuals. So it's important to have that information with you as well so that we can assist you in making sure they get those documents or instruments after you've signed with us.
Yeah, I don't think it's at Nugen Law, we send out pre-strategy interview forms, and we're asking that information about their finances, their investments, etc. It really isn't to be nosy. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people feel a little awkward putting that down. But what it's doing is it's allowing us as attorneys to see what assets we have, how they're funded, maybe how it's titled. Are there beneficiaries on those things? Because without knowing what's out there, it's very difficult for us to provide guidance, to provide appropriate advice. So we want to have an understanding generally about what's there. For example, I might handle an IRA, individual retirement account, differently than I would handle a standard brokerage account. So when I have that information, I'm already in the mind space before I'm speaking with my client. I've reviewed their documents. I'm meeting with them, and I'm already thinking about what can or can't we do with those items to achieve our client's goals. So it really isn't about being nosy. It really is about helping the client. Another common theme that I hear from folks that they have, I'll hear this, I don't have much. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means to have a lot of money or a little money, because it's completely relative. There's always somebody in the room that has more money than you. There's always somebody in the room that maybe has a little bit less than you. But it's really irrelevant how many zeros you have behind your name. What is relevant is, what are we going to do with the assets that you have? What opportunities do you have for those assets? It is irrelevant to us as attorneys when we're meeting with our clients how much there is. It really is about understanding the client, meeting them where they are, and achieving as best we can the goals for our clients that they have. What are you focusing on, Jesslyn, when you're meeting your clients for the first time at Nugen Law?
When I meet with them the first time, I start off the conversation asking them to tell me a little bit about themselves, their family, and what are they wanting to achieve? What are their goals? I want to hear it directly from them, what they're wanting to accomplish. Then once they've established that baseline for me, I know then, okay, this is the direction we need to start discussing.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Nugen Law has a life care planning approach to client representation. That is, we don't just prepare a document and our work is done. What's life care planning, Jesslyn? How does that benefit your Nugen Law clients?
Yeah, life care planning is about building a relationship with the client long term. And so our contracts with the client are for a year. And then within that life care planning contract, they have access to different services that we offer within the firm outside of just drafting the instruments for them. For instance, we have a Medicare specialist that helps our clients review their plans during open enrollment, and is there a way we can get cost savings, or is there a more appropriate plan that they need to be in based on the meds that they have and things like that. So we focus on making sure they've got appropriate insurance for themselves. We have a CPA on staff that prepares the tax returns for our clients. So you sign a contract with us under the life care planning, and we work with the client to prepare their tax returns in between January and April. Also, we have an elder care coordinator. So for those that are in the situation of starting to need help at home and maybe need some recommendations on services that they can have in the home, such as like Meals on Wheels and things like that, our elder care coordinator is a licensed social worker that can help families make those decisions on what services and things that we can provide for them or that they can receive in order to stay home longer. And then we also have a benefits specialist on our team that helps with securing those benefits and applying for Medicaid or VA.
So, and also, if any of their instruments that we've prepared need to be modified, that we'll modify those without issue. If you need to speak with the attorneys, not a problem. And all of those services, that type of representation, that life care planning, it comes at a flat fee. So it's value-based billing. So based upon your matter, what you need to get accomplished, we have an established fee for that, and it's a one-time fee. And if we see you once a day, twice a day, once a week, once a month, if you're taking advantage of our benefits or not, it's the same cost, which people love because they don't need to worry. Every time I call Jesslyn, every time I call Bryan, every time I call BG or Lisa or somebody else from the office, we're not tracking our time. It's just you have unfettered access to everybody on your life care planning team, and people really appreciate that. And so, Jesslyn, after the 1 year of our agreement for services has concluded, does that mean they're no longer a client of ours, or they're always our client?
So we actually have a client care renewal program. And so the client can renew and get those continued services and benefits from our office at a reduced fee. And it's 25% of the initial cost of what you paid in order to renew each year after that.
Sure. They don't have to renew.
No.
I would say a majority do, but it's not a requirement. But, of course, I think people see the value in what we're providing, and especially in years 2, 3, 4, it's at a significantly reduced price. But, so that is an ongoing service that we provide for our folks as well. And I do think that as folks age, they see more and more of the benefit in having that ongoing access to the entire team.
Yeah, it's kind of an insurance policy almost too, to know that you've got those services available, by renewing each year.
Sure. So to our listeners, if you text the word Nugen, that's Nugen, on your smartphone to the phone number 45364. So text Nugen, Nugen, to the phone number 45364. You'll get a text. Give it 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and you get a text. And in that text, it will have our contact information. So if you care to, you would be able to schedule a time to meet with Jesslyn, myself, one of the other members of the Nugen Law team for matters that are relevant to you and where you are. You should know that we're representing clients in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. So we would be able to assist if you're from Indiana, you're over the line in Ohio, or up in Michigan. We regularly represent clients in all 4 states. That licensing in Florida is also helpful for our snowbirds. We have a lot of snowbirds that have ties to the Midwest, and now they have property in Florida, or they're retiring in Florida, have a foot in both states. We're able to help them out in both locales. Nugen Law will also be presenting a free seminar on August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. here in Fort Wayne, taking a deeper dive into how you can be sure to preserve your dignity, protect your money, with topics like asset preservation, care management with our elder care coordinator, estate planning, and elder law. So please give us a call at 260-925-3738 to reserve your spot. So there are lots of different types of instruments we discuss and prepare for our Nugen Law clients. Let's educate our listeners about a couple of those: the will and the trust. I will get approached on the street and somebody will say, "I need a simple will." Or somebody will come to the client into their first appointment and say, "We just need a simple will." Well, first of all, I don't know what a simple will is, because they're complex instruments and they can do a lot of different things for you. But I don't know how you would know if you need a will or a trust or something else until you have an opportunity to meet with an attorney and thoroughly review what your goals are. So what people think about most when they're thinking about estate planning is the last will and testament. I oftentimes hear people say that simple will is all I need. That may be the case, but they may need somebody else, or something else rather. So we should be speaking about that in our meeting. We should be talking about your goals and allowing myself, Jesslyn, to make some recommendations for them to consider. Our client is always in charge. They make the final decisions, but I want to make sure it's the best informed decision for them to achieve, and I know, Jesslyn, you feel the same way. I want and enjoy for them to use my training, your training, my education and experience to reach their goals. Jesslyn, what is a last will and testament? What's the purpose of a will?
Yeah, a last will and testament is an instrument that says, when I pass away, this is who I want to be in charge of making sure my things go to the individuals I want it to go to.
All right. And if you have a will when you pass away, do you go through probate or do you avoid probate?
You go through probate.
Okay. What is probate?
So probate is simply meaning that the personal representative petitions the court after you've died and says, we've got assets that we need to manage and get distributed to the heirs. So you're asking the court to allow you to be in charge to make sure that those assets get divided up.
My experience has been probate is typically a year, more or less, plus or minus. Of course, you're paying for counsel. You're advertising in the newspaper. If you had a nosy neighbor that wanted to see your will, they could come to court and see the will. It's all public record. So let's not forget about one of my favorite estate planning tools, the trust. When I mention use of trusts to clients, they become a little nervous sometimes. They are concerned if their estate's large enough to merit having one. How do they manage a trust? Is it going to be expensive? So the term trust covers a large umbrella of instruments. Let's discuss very generally trusts. So what is a trust? And who are the players in the trust?
Yeah, so a trust is an instrument that avoids probate. So It's private then, which means that a person that you pick to be in charge doesn't have to go down to the courthouse. They can manage everything outside of court. And those important players of that trust is first the grantor, which is the client. They're the ones creating the trust. They then select a trustee. Now, depending on the type of trust it is, that trustee may be themselves while they're alive, or it may
alive
be
and competent.
Alive and competent, or it may be someone else that they've chosen to be trustee and in charge of managing the assets of the trust. And then we have the beneficiaries of the trust who will benefit from it. And there's two types. There's lifetime and death beneficiary.
So during the lifetime of the person that made the trust, who's going to benefit from it? It could be them. It could be a child. It could be anybody else. And then when they pass away, where does the money go? Who benefits from the money then? Yeah. Again, spouse, child, charity, religious entity. Should a person have a certain amount of money in their name before they consider a trust versus a will, or is a trust only for the super wealthy?
No, a trust is not for just the super wealthy. Again, it's about what the client's goals are when they tell you in the meeting. You know, when I ask clients that and one of their concerns is I want to avoid probate, well, then that's what a trust's purpose is to do, is to avoid probate. And it doesn't matter how much you have or what it is you have, you know. If your goal is to avoid probate, then trust would be the option or the road we'd want to go down for you.
Well, let's talk about cost as well. At the time of your passing, do you find it more expensive to go through probate and have estate administration, or more expensive to have had a trust?
To go through probate, because you're going to have court fees, attorney fees, and things like that.
Right. If our listeners want to learn more about trusts, Nugen Law will be presenting a free seminar on August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. in Fort Wayne with a deeper dive into how you can be sure to preserve your dignity and protect your money with topics like asset preservation, care management as you age, estate planning, and elder law. So please give us a call at 260-925-3738, 260-925-3738, to reserve your spot. So, Jesslyn, some trusts are revocable and some are irrevocable. So what does it mean for a trust to be revocable?
Revocable means that trust can be amended or revoked while you're alive. And so you can make changes to it, change who those beneficiaries are, change who the trustee is. You can add more assets into it. So it simply means that you can make changes to it while you're alive.
Why would a person use a revocable trust?
Again, if their goal is to avoid probate, they may still want to add assets to it, or they may want to still be able to change it. You know, a situation may change where the trustee that they named has now gotten in some trouble. And so maybe they want to change who the backup trustee is of that trust after they pass away. But there may be reasons that they want to change that trust while they're alive.
And so the opposite of that, irrevocable. What does it mean for a trust to be irrevocable?
Irrevocable means that trust can't be changed. You can't change the terms of that trust while you're alive. You've said that this is my complete contract.
So there is an exception, right? We could go to court. We could file the trust with the court and say, please amend this irrevocable trust. But generally, those trusts, I say, you got to think of it as being set in stone. Right?
Yeah.
It isn't to be changed or thought to be changed. Why would you recommend use of an irrevocable trust for your Nugen Law clients, especially in the context of elder law and asset preservation?
We look at those types of trust when the client's goal is, I want to protect my assets from the nursing home or from potentially losing it if I need care. So when they say that that's their goal, then we start to look at, do we want to do an irrevocable trust to protect those assets?
What's the ideal time to establish an irrevocable trust? How long before needing care do we want those things in place?
So we need to have that trust in place 5 years before they would potentially need the care. And so usually I tell clients the age to be looking at those is between 70 and 80 because the average age for individuals that go into the nursing home or needing care is 82. Mm-hmm. So somewhere that sweet spot might be after 70, but before 80.
Yeah. And everybody's health is different. However, we need those 5 years ideally. It's especially true when you learn that 7 out of 10 people will need long-term care in their lifetime. So long-term care is necessitated when someone needs help with activities of daily living, eating, bathing, dressing, using the bathroom. And what are we protecting against? Average cost of care in Indiana. So if you want care in the home, the average cost of care is around $69,700 a year. Adult daycare in Indiana, $69,900 a year. Assisted living facility stays, $60,000 a year. Nursing home care in Indiana, semi-private room, around $94,000 a year. If you want a private room, $116,000 a year. In Fort Wayne, interestingly enough, our rates are higher than state averages. For a semi-private room, meaning you have a roommate, you're going to be paying around $111,000 a year. And then if you want a private room, around $136,000, $137,000 a year. So when Jesslyn's talking about forming those irrevocable trusts and having them in place for 5 years or more, that's what she's talking about protecting against, spending that $70,000, $90,000, $111,000, $140,000 a year on your care. So if we have the opportunity to set those things up in advance, it can provide huge benefits to our Nugen Law clients. My experience that has been that a lot of our clients are motivated to contact us for help when they see that a loved one or a friend or family has lost their money, their life savings. They sold the house, right? They sold the farm after entering a nursing home or a memory care unit. They don't want that same thing to happen to them or their parents. Jesslyn, is it ever too late for Nugen Law to help people protect their money, even if they didn't create that irrevocable trust that we were just talking about?
No, it's never too late. If you have an event that happens and you need the care, we can do planning in that moment and still protect usually somewhere between 50% to 70%.
For a single person.
For a single person.
Yeah.
For a married couple, we can protect everything for the spouse that remains at home.
Sure. As a reminder, Nugen Law represents clients in Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and Florida. If you hear something in today's broadcast which resonates with you, you have a loved one in a nursing home and you're recognizing, oh my gosh, we're writing a check for $7, $8, $9, $10 a month. That's killing me. How do we stop that? I would encourage you to reach out to us at 260-925-3738 and allow us to help. I'll speak with one of our intake specialists and schedule a meeting for our office either in Fort Wayne or Auburn. You're also encouraged to see us online at www.nugenlaw.com. Please also give us a call to have a seat at our seminar scheduled for August 15th between 1 and 5 p.m. here in Fort Wayne. We're going to take a deeper dive than what we're permitted to talk about on the show here. If you would give us a call at 260-925-3738, we'll reserve your spot. Thank you, Jesslyn, for joining me today and for speaking to our listeners. I really appreciate your time and your expertise. You've provided some invaluable insight. And thank you for listening to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. And again, to Jesslyn, I look forward to speaking with you folks next weekend, Saturday at 9 a.m. Until then, please enjoy your weekend and take care.
You've been listening to Preserving Your Dignity and Your Money, Planning for Successful Aging with Nugen Law. For more information, log on to NugenLaw.com or email help@NugenLaw.com. Nothing stated in today's program should be considered as legal advice, should not be considered as having created an attorney-client relationship between show host and guests and any listener. Nugen Law is not liable for anything that happens as a result of a listener relying on provided information as legal advice. The content is for informational purposes only.
Podcasts by Federated Media.